Good morning and welcome to the Raben Report. I'm your host, Elliot Raben, so get ready to get triggered. Good morning and welcome to the Raben Report's 60th episode. I'm your host, Elliot Raben, and with me, I have my expert panel, Marshall, Adam, and Daniel. How are you guys?
Fantastic.
Doing good?
Pretty sure my name's Tamar, not Adam.
Oh my god, I'm so sorry. Tamar.
Awkward.
Tamar. Okay.
That's funny.
Anyway, it is our 60th episode, but also, we have a very special guest joining us, Jake Benaim. Jake, thank you for being here literally last minute.
Yes, I did not know this was happening until 3 minutes ago, so that's fun.
April Fools, haha.
Literally.
Oh no, the April Fool's joke is that I'm Adam.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, there we go. That's
That,
the joke.
The whole time.
Well, see, so if we're being honest, we're honest here at the Raben Report. We're not fake news. We genuinely were not aware where Daniel was, so we were just scrambling to figuring out.
I was just running from campus to the other side, but it's all good now.
But it's all good. So, but anyway, we were like a couple minutes of showtime, and we're like, "Where's Daniel?" And so I just ran out, and I'm like, "Hey, anybody know the Democrats really well? Our main topic." And Jake was the one, and he agreed. So thank you so much, Jake, for being on the show.
Happy to be here.
So,
Big fan.
thank you. It's we're so glad that you can join us on our 60th episode because this is the first time that we have 5 people in this one room. So feel free to talk right into the mic when you want to say anything. We are welcome to your views. But as for Spirit Live rules and regulations, all opinions expressed are not those of Ryerson or Ryerson faculty and are only those of the individual commentators. Viewer discretion is advised. So let's start with, again, the fact that it's our 60th episode. Thoughts, guys? Season 6, 60th episode.
No, that's a lot of episodes. It's a big number.
Yeah.
60.
It's a
You know,
new
I've been here for
milestone.
so long. I feel like, almost like a veteran of the show. 60 episodes. That's how you know you're successful.
Well, yeah, you've been here a lot, Adam, eh? Yeah. No, it's so nice to have, to have new faces on the show and still to have people that watch the show and enjoy it. Jake, you were saying that you actually watched the show, so
Yeah, I've been following since like your first year with Spirit Live.
Well, thank you so much. I and I'm sure all of us really appreciate it.
That means a lot. Yeah.
Thoughts, Daniel?
I didn't know we have that many people that have been watching for a while. So it's very nice to see dedicated fans, and we appreciate it. So
He didn't say. Oh, sorry. I was just gonna cut in with one of my sassy, spicy comments and saying that we never said that there was a lot of people watching. We just said it's the 60th episode.
Yeah.
Like you could still have 60 episodes with 0 viewers.
No, he was talking
I'm a lot
about
of people.
Jake.
Oh.
yeah,
I
it
count for
counts.
a lot.
I don't know how
Every
Jake's been
view counts.
watching.
No, I
Sorry.
remember first year in orientation week when I first met Elliot and we were like at a Starbucks.
Oh,
and he was
yeah.
telling me about this idea he had for a show, but he didn't want to do it because he thought it would be too controversial to have people like from different sides. And I'm just like, no, go for it. And he went for it, and here he is now doing his thing. Oh, he's live.
Yeah. It all started partly with a conversation with you, and I'm, very, very happy that this has become something, and you're obviously one of the reasons that it happened because you.
Okay, that's a
you
stretch.
you encouraged me to do it, and every person that backed me up and that encouraged me to actually go for it means a lot to me. So thank you.
Follow your dreams.
I'm trying.
Don't let your dreams be dreams.
Oh, that was deep.
Very deep.
I don't know where I stole that from, but definitely somewhere.
Shia LaBeouf is weird. That's right.
So now let's move on to another important issue. Well, not issue, but it's a happy thing. It was Celine Dion's 51st birthday. Now, obviously, I'm going to bring this up.
Wait, it was her
because
51st?
51st birthday.
Oh, I thought it was like her
ending
98th.
discussion. Nice.
Happy birthday, Celine.
Okay.
What was it,
Yeah.
90
Thank
you
you.
said? That's-
It was her 98th birthday.
It looks like
So
it is.
no,
Like,
but
Right?
it's very interesting because you, both Tamar and Daniel
Yeah.
and Jen, who was on the show, decided to put an angry react on my post.
Okay,
on
you
her
don't
birthday.
understand the concept
So-
of shit disturbing. I did it because I knew how much. Like
Oh,
you're
I
so
know.
angry right
No,
now,
I'm
and I
not.
did it specifically for this reaction.
I'm
it's like-
I'm happy because it just means you guys are going to hell. But
Oh.
moving forward, let's talk about Marshall's trip to the Manning Conference.
Hey, well, you know what? It was a nice weekend in Ottawa, and I go every year with Ryerson Campus Conservatives. Always a nice time. It's a great experience, a great opportunity to network with other conservatives. There's a lot of young people there, so it's nice to meet other young conservatives. Lots of students. And there was some great speakers. There was a talk from one of my professors, Patrice Dutil, who was talking about the kind of attack on Canadian history that's going on, and that was very nice, as well as a discussion on whether China is a friend or a foe. There was a talk from Karl Rove, who was the deputy chief of staff to George W. Bush. I didn't like his talk very much. He was very neocon, pro-interventionist, that kind of nonsense. But, it was nice to have him come out anyway. And lots of great networking opportunities. So it was nice to be able to spend my birthday in Ottawa and have a nice time with all these conservatives. And, yeah.
Did you meet Andrew Scheer?
I didn't meet him, no.
Was he there?
He was there. He gave a talk. Andrew Scheer gave a talk.
And
Doug
Doug
Ford
Ford
gave a
gave-
talk,
yeah.
yeah.
That's good.
But they didn't do like the whole meet and greet thing. I don't think they had time, and I don't think that the hotel we were
they're
at
pretty
was
busy, right?
particularly equipped for the security needs of those two individuals.
Of
So
course.
it was more of an in and out thing for them. But they both gave great talks. Andrew Scheer's talk this year was leagues better than his talk last year. Last year it was all about Ukraine. And you know me. I don't care about Ukraine.
Ouch.
But that's just something. There's
I
just
couldn't
new
care less
news.
about any Canada that's not, or sorry, any country that's not Canada. To
my
be
mom's
honest.
from Ukraine.
Well, you know what?
She?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Okay, that doesn't change the.
If it's not Canada, I
he
don't
doesn't
care.
care about your mom.
If it's
I
not
can tell.
Canada, I don't care.
Yeah,
everybody
Marshall
here is just
really
going to
doesn't
hell.
care about your mom
It's
at
funny
all.
because they just had a comedian that was about to become president of
Yes,
Ukraine. So
yeah.
it's like, that's insane.
Well, we'll see about that. That's
yeah,
it's
that's
gonna be
that's gonna
interesting.
be more breaking news after.
Yeah,
But-
I met Andrew Scheer one time at my internship, and like earlier this year, and I was like looking at him. I was walking out the door. He was waiting to come in. I was at Bell Media, so he was going to speak on CP24. I'm like looking at him, and I was like, wait, is that Andrew Scheer? But like I was just looking at him, and like he's such a like basic like white guy that like I didn't know if it was him or if it was just like some other dude. And I'm like looking and staring at him, and then he's staring back at me, and like it's this super uncomfortable exchange. And I was like, oh, Andrew. And he's like, oh, hi. And yeah, we took a picture, and it was
Oh,
really
that's
cool.
nice.
Yeah, it
Did
was
you really
fun.
start off with, oh, Andrew?
Literally,
Like,
yeah.
Lifetime friends? Like,
Yeah,
just
I know. I was so
recognizing?
surprised with myself that I did that because it's so not my type. I was like, oh my God, hi. And he was like, hi.
Well, see, that's probably what he would have liked, because I always try to call politicians like Mr. or Mrs. whatever, and they never like that. They're always like, no, call me Andrew, call me, whatever, or call me Doug.
Isn't that a ploy to like?
Call me
Well,
Doug.
it's them trying to make themselves more relatable, of
Yeah.
course. But
Yeah.
they generally
He's
every
the-
politician I've ever met likes to be called by their first name. But for me, it's weird. Like a person in a position of authority, I call them Mr. or Mrs. whatever.
And,
but-
like the right honorable. There you go. That's how you do it.
Well, he's not the prime minister, so he's not the right honorable. So I wouldn't call him
just
that.
the honorable for now.
Yeah, the
Oh,
honorable.
that's what their title
for
is?
me. No, for me, yeah.
Well,
Zahavi wants to know if he's more personal than Trudeau. But I don't know. I've never met Justin Trudeau. So I
I
can't
have
say.
actually.
I've seen him like in passing. Like,
I've met him
once or
through.
twice.
I was in the
the-
Eden Center when he was there, and I didn't meet him.
Wow.
Yeah,
No,
was sad.
I fully got a picture with him with my whole CJ Pack group.
Oh, right. You
and-
interned for them. I forgot.
Oh no, I didn't intern, but it was just the group of kids that were there for that session, that year's
okay.
session, and we went to Ottawa, and we were all kind of, we got there, and we were also excited to go to the gallery and watch, the real debate, and Stephen Harper was still there at that point, and then we kind of got thrown into the room of one of the politicians and watched the debate from a TV, and we were kind of like, I could have done this at home, and then we went downstairs, and we're like, they stopped us. They're like, guys, just wait here. And then all of a sudden, Trudeau comes out. And he's like, hey, guys, how's it going? Like, let me answer some questions. And we're all just, like, starstruck. We're like, holy crap, the Prime
Oh, they
Minister
did
just
it.
showed up. And
They
then
just organized that very quickly for you.
and then that
Did you
clip.
take selfies with you all?
No. But he
Aw.
took one group picture. But luckily,
Nice.
even though I wasn't too close to him in that group picture, my face made it on TV. So,
Good for you.
anyway,
Priorities.
in other news, our last one, which is probably the most controversial, the Quebec religious ban. They just passed. Did they pass
What
the
was the
law?
number of the bill?
They've been speaking about it for.
I don't
very
think it's
long
officially
time.
been.
No.
Oh no, it has.
Yeah.
It has been passed. Yeah, it's been passed.
Oh, has it?
Yeah.
Oh, sick.
So basically, they have banned any religious clothing or symbols
For any public institution.
Yeah.
That's so ironic coming from Quebec specifically
Yeah.
because Quebec is so founded on like Christian
Religion, yeah.
values. So to hear that is just like it's so
Well,
weird.
I would say the opposite. I would say that Quebec is actually very much founded on secular values. I mean, they have a very religious population, but foundationally, the core of their civic nationalism is secularism, which comes from the principle of laïcité from France. And
So is it more just to identify with Quebec than just your religion then? Like that's
well,
the
yeah,
idea.
and people are saying this is discriminatory towards Muslims, and I mean, it's not in any way.
I love that
It's-
people think that Muslims are not the only people who have like religious symbols.
exactly,
Yeah,
and
There's
you
other
know,
Jews
religious
as well.
symbols.
and I mean,
Anyone.
and Christians as well,
No
even,
idea.
but
Any
I have no
religion.
idea.
it's a target. It's targeting religion in general because Quebec is foundationally secular. That is one of the number one core principles of their nation.
Yeah.
And while I don't necessarily support this legislation because I don't like secularism, I think it's silly and it's not real.
You still think that porn is a sin.
Yes, I do, because it is. I don't make the rules. I just
You just
tell them.
Tell it like it is.
And, when it comes to secularism, as silly as I think it is, I do fundamentally support the right of Quebec to enforce these laws and to apply these legislations because if they want to maintain the foundations of their nation, then more power to them.
So I kind of disagree, and I really wish that Ruben was here this week because he'd have a lot to say about this. But I think that with Quebec, the problem. Okay, so I am totally, I agree with the separation between church and state. I don't think that there should be, any religious aspect being brought into, courts or government, any of that. I say that as a religious person as well. So that being said, I don't agree that people should be limited in how they're allowed to express themselves. For telling them they can't wear, I know specifically like for a Jewish man, like they can't wear a kippah or they can't wear a Star of David, or a Sikh individual can't wear a turban, or like a Muslim woman can't wear a hijab or anything that shows that you're part of your religion. I don't think the fact that sorry, I'm getting
Nothing.
a little
I
thrown
know,
off.
it just sounds like a frat boy. I'm sorry. It's
Oh
okay.
yeah, there's someone screaming in the room next door.
Yeah, exactly. It's okay though.
Do you want me to go ask them to be quiet while I'm on air? Well, that'd be hilarious.
Sure.
You
Do
do
it.
like being
Do it.
sassy.
No.
That's good.
Let's do this.
It's going down.
Hey, you're being really loud. We're on air.
Thank you.
And that's how you do it.
Hold on. Anyways, where was I? Oh yeah. So I mean, I think that banning these symbols, I think that their reasoning is off. Like I know, like I was speaking about it with
For
Ruben.
clarification though, is it just the symbols or is it like
It's wearing anything that
They're-
symbolizes a religion in
you
a
can't
place
wear
of,
it
in a
then?
public.
They're
in a
not
public
allowing any
service.
public servants to wear it, but they're also necessitating that you have to remove them if you're trying to access public
Like a security
service.
However,
Yeah.
it will not affect current public servants. Only new public servants coming in.
I really think
I
it's
think that's-
ridiculous.
that-
I think
that's
it's beyond.
that's really messed up.
No, it's
Yeah.
messed up because in the sense that like you end up that
That limits
gets
it,
into
that
laws
limits job
of
opportunities.
discrimination.
Yeah.
Like that means that like
I think it's easy enough to say that you're for the separation of church and state, which I believe in, but
Yeah.
I think to deny that church exists as a whole by making people remove whatever it is that they identify with that ties them to their religion, that it mandates them towards that, is
isn't that even
not
part of
not
human rights? Like to
it's not enforcing
express your
secularism.
religion?
It's just
Well, where do
denying
human rights
what-
come from? Right? Like who decides what human rights are?
right, but if it's not included, I mean, doesn't Canada have like a charter of human rights?
They
Did
do,
not
but,
have it?
But our,
Is
our
it-
laws don't apply to Quebec as
Oh,
strongly
because
as
Quebec
they do for the
doesn't
rest.
think that they're Canada.
Yeah, well, they are. I mean,
They are. I'm pretty sure they are. Last time I checked.
they're fundamentally a different nation.
Okay, that's great, but
The
you still
idea
have
is
to.
a distinct society. That's how the Canada government defines it. So
If they want to make their own laws, I mean, I'm happy to allow them to. So like, I think the way that we've separated Quebec from ourselves has been done in a flawed manner, where it's a nation within a nation. I disagree with that premise because I see it as two separate nations as opposed to a nation within a nation: French Canada and English Canada. And I think that while we give Quebec lots of autonomy and able to self-determination, I don't think that's applied evenly to English Canada, but to that end. You know, it's just a foundational principle of Quebec, and it's always been a part of Quebec is this hardline secularism. They just haven't enforced it in a legal sense until just recently. And, you know, it's simply part of the nation. So if you don't like the secularism of Quebec, don't live in Quebec.
But so you disagree that Quebec is like based on like religious values?
It's absolutely not. It's based on
more on
secularism. It's
secularism.
based on the principles of the French Revolution, which one of those three founding principles, or one of those three main principles, is secularism.
Yeah, I don't know. I just really honestly think for like going in with that. At the same time, I just really think it's not like a lot of people are commenting saying they can work other jobs and it's not a right to work a government job. And of course not. Of course, no one's saying that's a right. What I'm saying is that it's every person's right in Canada, whether or not you want to argue Quebec is in Canada. Like
it is Canada.
Geographically,
but
it's in Canada. They have to abide by the
yeah.
Canadian Charter of Human Rights. Everyone has the right to freedom of expression of their religion. And to say to somebody, you can't work here because of your religion, you believe you have to wear a turban, and you can't work here because of that. That's discrimination on religious rights. Like, it's one thing if, you're wearing, like, I don't know, like a Star of David necklace, and they tell you not to wear that. Like, okay, yeah, I'd be pissed off about it. But would I say that's specifically anti-Semitic? No. Because they don't want, you know what I mean? Like, they want to put everyone on the same level. They don't want you to feel that you're being biased towards someone else because of your religion. I can hear that argument, but it's still like there are some religious symbols you wear because it's part of your religion, and like you can't take it off.
And that debate actually came up even with police officers in Toronto. Like they allow people of the Sikh faith to wear their turbans on the job now, right?
Yeah.
So
that was also just a law that was passed that like for anyone who was Sikh that had a turban, they don't have to wear a helmet anymore.
That's what I was gonna get
right?
to. See,
I don't know. I don't see like in terms of like to create a safe society, because that's what is the mandate for our governments. Like, we're drawing the line past that so people can like disregard their safety and go on a motorcycle like that?
Yeah, I mean, as far
Unless
as
they
I'm
accept their
concerned, that is
liability,
special
right?
treatment, and I mean,
Yeah.
It's. Do we need motorcycle helmet laws? That's a separate debate. I would probably say yes, but should they not be applied evenly? Yes, of course they should be. The fact that you can wear a turban as a substitute for a motorcycle helmet, that's insanity.
But no, but all I'm saying is like it would be the same principle then. Like if a Sikh can wear their turban while they're doing that, then someone could wear a kippah and no helmet.
Yeah,
and they could go.
And why
right?
not?
Why not?
Well,
like a priest could do the same
come up
thing.
with a bunch of what ifs regarding it.
There's a lot of what
But
ifs.
the idea of saying that we only have equality once everyone is conforming to the same rules regardless of their personal situation is a bit unfair to put into the situation. And if we're bringing it back to the idea of the Quebec law, where we're saying that yes, it does target all religions as a whole, not necessarily people of Muslim faith. When you're looking at the things that are going to transpire as a result of the law, where Muslim women who wear facial coverings would have to take them off to access a public transportation like a library or a bus. I think that's where people are getting into the idea that, yes, it's not about specifically targeting Muslim people or Muslim women specifically, but that is the group that's going to receive the most amount of detriment or is going to be the most victimized as a result of its implementation.
Christian here says something interesting. He says, let's be honest, they want to make it inconvenient for religious immigrants to live in Quebec. I mean, no, Christian, let's be honest. Secularism isn't new to Quebec. What's new to Quebec is religious immigrants, right? Well, from other religious communities other than
wasn't
Catholics.
it mostly just two Christian faiths? That's it. It's just Protestants and Roman Catholics that congregate in Quebec. So they already have a majority.
For a long time, yes. Yeah.
It just genuinely, like someone just commented, it's a litmus test of how much of a religious freedom can the government take away from an individual. 100%. I really think that, to say that you can't work in this job if you wear this or you present like this, it's ridiculous. But I don't live in Quebec and I never want to, so.
And it's not, I'm not even here defending the legislation by itself, but I will defend Quebec's right to enforce it is my thing, because I believe in, civic self-determination, which is what it's about.
Yeah, but they, again, are still part of Canada and still have to abide by the Charter of Human Rights. And denying someone a job because of their religion is...
It's not denying somebody a job because of their religion.
It's okay. Sorry, it's not denying a job
It's
because of
limiting
religion.
access to
It's
the
limiting
job.
access to a job because of how they express their religion, and expressing your religion is a right.
And especially because the way you made a distinction that it was like new people that are going to start applying for jobs. So people who before worked in that, like people of other religious faiths that just came into the country recently, or even like over the last generation, they're not going to have an opportunity to get these new jobs then.
Why not?
In the future? Didn't you just say that?
What? Why can't they get the job?
Because if they're not going to be able to wear their religious.
It might
And
seem
that's
like
a sacrifice you'll have to make. You're coming to a new country, a new place, and you have made a decision to come to this place because you're seeking a better life.
Okay,
And
like,
there are
but that's-
sacrifices that you have to make when you come
when
somewhere to
does the
seek a better life.
That
jurisdiction of
example
Quebec
could be
over-
just as relevant with someone who was born here, and this is where they grew up and everything like that. It's not that I don't think the inherent value comes to the fact that you're moving to a place and that's what you have to accept.
Or just anyone who has a different culture that's not from the traditional Canadian culture, I would say then. Yeah.
But even if you were born here, someone down the line was not, and if you're coming somewhere, you have to be prepared to accept the fact that you're going to have to make sacrifices and assimilate to some extent. Because you're coming from somewhere that was not providing for you. You can't expect to take everything that was in the place that wasn't providing for
put
you
it right
and
into
transplant it into the place that is going to be providing for you. Right? Like, why are you coming to Canada? What reason are you coming to Canada for? Are you coming just because you want to come, just because you think Canada's cool? Probably not. You're probably coming because the place you were in
better
before was not
opportunity.
providing an adequate life for you. In which case, you need to realize that there's reasons why Canada provides an adequate life for you and the place you were in didn't, and that you need to assimilate to this culture that has fostered an environment where you can be provided an adequate life.
But see, isn't there a difference of like taking that sacrifice and comparing it to with Ontario and Quebec? Because Quebec now has these distinct laws. That doesn't really apply here in Ontario, right?
It doesn't,
So it's-
sure.
But but don't we see that like it's a more harmonizing way of having all cultures here in Toronto in comparison to what's going to happen, what could happen in the future?
Is
with
it
Quebec?
harmonizing or is it atomizing? I think it's very atomizing. I think we've got situations where people are congregated in these
In their
small groups
enclaves?
that do
Yeah.
not interact with each other. I think that's very non-harmonizing.
I'll concede that one because like every single city, like even from the GTA, has their own little enclave of different demographics that they like to stay together, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like, but how do we can't really enforce that where people are gonna once someone gets here, they can migrate to any region that they want to.
They
right?
can.
So it's
We do have freedom of movement where you
Yeah.
can go between all the provinces, but all the provinces are allowed to have their own laws, right?
But isn't the province
especially
like,
Quebec?
it's not going to disencourage more immigrants to go into that province because of this potential ban.
And if
or you-
you don't want exactly what I'm saying, if you don't like
Just
it,
go
then
to any
Quebec.
other nine or
Go to
yeah.
Ontario, go to Manitoba, right? Like go
My
to
dad's
Northwest
from
Territories.
Manitoba. Lol.
That's a good point.
But why should you have to move from the place that you've been your entire life? You were born there, you live there, and I'm playing devil's advocate here, right? But you were born there, you live there, you're not of the Christian faith, so you do have a religious,
Someone who's
clothing.
born and lived in Quebec. then?
Why should you have to move to be able to get a certain job?
You don't have to move, but you do have to make a choice. You have three choices here. You can not work in the public sector as a public servant, and I mean there are public sector jobs where you're not a public servant, but you can not be a public servant. You can not wear your religious symbol, or you can leave Quebec. Right? You have three options. That's plenty of choice.
Heard that
right?
before.
Yeah, I mean it's
then
plenty
does-
of.
Not in a good
Okay,
way.
by the same principle, then does that mean Ontario should be like using this as precedent to start making ourselves into our own more distinct society in comparison?
No, not Ontario, but English Canada.
English Canada should.
Yes.
Okay.
So I can see you have quite an issue with French Canada, eh?
Yeah.
No, I love French Canada.
Oh.
I'm hugely supportive of them being able to make their own laws and them being able to live as a distinct society. I just don't think we've gone about it in the right way, but I'm actually extremely supportive of French Canada, and I think it's a beautiful culture and a very important part of Canada.
What about like New Brunswick then? Because like Quebec kind of really steals the spotlight for all the French speakers. Because I know New Brunswick is
New Brunswick's an interesting situation
Well,
because they're the only bilingual.
Yeah.
They
province.
actually get they actually get like brought into what is it like francophonie like, conferences and stuff like that because of their
Yeah, because
religious
they're
beliefs. Yeah.
religious beliefs or because of their
no sorry
bilingual?
because of their language. My bad.
Yeah, and I mean, New Brunswick is a
Language
rather
belief.
interesting
Yeah.
situation because they're not necessarily the same kind of French Canadians as French Canadians are. They're
Yeah.
Acadians. Well,
Yeah,
Kind
if you
of.
go back enough. Like,
Kind of. But
that's-
there's not a whole lot of Acadians there anymore, but they do very much integrate a lot of Acadian culture into the culture of New Brunswick.
Well, there's definitely a lot more to talk about this issue, and seeing what the future is of this law. We might even have an entire episode dedicated to it, because as you can see, we
ate up a lot of our time there.
Yeah,
Well,
we did start a little
late.
later.
Oh,
we
yeah.
did start a little
We did
late,
start later.
but
Because
it's
Daniel
still
Daniel's
slept in.
it's still.
Bring me back for that episode. I'll say.
Oh, honestly, come. We love having guests. So let's move on to our main story, which is the Democrats.
Sounds like The Sopranos.
I thought we were going to talk about the carbon tax today because it went up today.
Oh, it officially.
Well,
Yeah,
if you
I
had
saw the news.
But I
mentioned
mentioned it before.
yeah.
Well, I mentioned it now.
Well,
And this morning I paid an extra 5 cents per liter than I normally
yeah,
do.
I've just
I
I'm
think
just
that's
gonna
such a
stop
big topic,
driving.
though. We should probably talk about that next week.
Oh,
Yeah,
I wasn't
let's-
saying to talk about it. I'm just saying that
Yeah.
it went up.
Well,
We
you're
can,
right.
We'll do an
to mention
episode
it.
on that too. We have so many topics that we could just continuously do
yeah,
episodes
fine.
throughout the
just
year.
shut down the
Yeah.
limit.
Uh,
but-
Fine. It's okay. I don't feel,
Wowzers. Okay.
nothing personal here.
Following the dramatic events of the 2016 presidential election, the Democratic Party needed to rebuild. They needed to find a new way to connect to and gain the support of the American people. Following both change on their part and pointing out issues of Trump's presidency, they managed to win control of the House, which has the power to initiate revenue bills and impeach federal officials, among other responsibilities. With that control came new representatives, like the outspoken Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Ilhan Omar, both of whom have caused issues within the party itself. Plus, with elections a year away, many prominent Democrats have put forth their name on the bill to run, like Elizabeth Warren and Kamala Harris. So the question is, can the Dems win in 2020? On today's show, we'll find out. Before we start, remember that we are live on Facebook, so you can tune in, comment on our feed, and have your thoughts read live on air. Now, yeah.
First off, I want to say you're biased when you're talking about AOC and Ilhan Omar, but that's okay.
I'm not saying that they...
Wait, why is
it's
he
not,
biased?
How am I biased? They
No,
have,
he is right. He is.
You
I
said,
said
it,
they
you said
have-
particular. They're causing difficulty into the
No,
party.
I
oh,
said-
sorry. I didn't.
I said that they
That's
have caused...
objectively correct.
They have caused internal difficulties
they
within
have.
the party.
Isn't that the same thing that happened with Trump when he got into
Yeah.
the Republic? They
Yes,
caused a crisis.
But today we're talking about the Democrats,
But I'm
and
s-
it's an objective fact that there have
Okay,
been issues.
Daniel, it's
okay.
okay. We gotta
I'm
move
just-
on. We gotta move on.
Everyone calm down. It's
Kevin
all
thought that
good.
first one was
There's no
tense. This
bias
is the
here.
real-
There's actually a lot more lean towards the Democrats in this, if anything.
Who the
Now-
heck is Andrew Yang? Everyone wants to talk about him.
Well, we'll get to him.
we
We'll
could
get
do
to
a
him.
whole episode on Andrew Yang.
I was making a joke. I was
So
making
let's just start with how the Democrats regained control of the House. Jake, let's start with you.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were gonna ask a question.
No, how did the Democrats regain control of the House?
Oh, well, they had a huge victory in the midterm elections with 2018. They saw a lot of House seat flips in the midterms back in November, and a lot of that came with the hype of, like you said, AOC. That was a big deal because she won the Democratic primary against Joe Crowley, who had held that seat for
20
decades,
years.
20
Yeah,
20
something
years,
like
right?
that.
And he was also one of the top members of leadership in the Democratic caucus. So that was just a huge deal to see a lot of newcomers entering politics for the Democrats. And that being said, there was also a huge amount of record wins for women, people of color, different marginalized groups, and that really took a spotlight, I think, when it came to the new people that entered the House for the next Congress.
And about these new people, let's dive right into it. Who is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez? Daniel, I know you got a lot to say about
yeah,
that.
you
funny.
love her.
That's why we wanted you to be
you
on
love
today's
her.
show.
First,
You
you have to
love
go
your
for the
trip to
pronunciation.
DC.
I
don't-
have to. I have to.
Okay, I do like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, but I don't obsess over her in the same way that Elliot does with Celine Dion. First of all,
I don't think anything
I don't think
tops
anyone
that.
First
does.
of all,
I think his
but-
obsession with Celine Dion is like borderline.
I mean, watch what you say there.
Ther-
I know.
therapeutic.
I'm
It's
just
therapeutic,
kidding.
though.
I'm just joking, guys. It's a joke.
Point is, I just really like. I think the redistricting that happened. I think was it 2 years ago? I believe. No, when they actually did the official committees and do the redistricting, they kind of did it on purpose to get more representation of marginalized groups in the community. Like an example, who was the one that AOC beat? What
Joe
was his-
Crowley.
Joe Crowley. In that that district before, it was like 80% like or 75% white people, and they switched it to have it be like a massive majority of Latino people there, right? So you can see lots of like I would say intentional to have more representation, which I think is good. I think that's something that promotes a healthier Congress that's more reflective of the American population. I think that's important, but. AOC is a special case because she's the youngest Latina congresswoman that's in power right now, and she's just like turning a lot of heads. And it's like I see more coverage from Fox News than I do from CNN sometimes, like criticizing her, just like everything that she does. I did get to meet her, like it was only brief, momentarily, but
Was it on your trip to DC?
yeah, it was on my trip to DC. Yes, there you go. Take a shot for every time you hear about my trip to DC.
That's why I said that. I was making fun of you.
Good job. But she's like turning a lot of heads more specifically because of the Green New Deal, I think.
And let's talk about that.
Yeah,
it was
it's just-
shot down, eh?
Oh, it was like, horribly defeated
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And it's like, I
Now-
kind of expected that
And
to
what is this
happen.
Green New Deal that she's
It's
been
like,
so
is it
passionate
15
about?
No.
She gave an amazing speech about it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like
like it was all over Facebook over the weekend.
Mhm.
I'm assuming it's the same deal.
after it got shot down.
Was it? No, when she was talking about like climate change and the fact
Oh,
that
I
and
think I was
how
watching
climate
one.
change is into an elitist issues. Was that the
Yeah.
you know how
speech
she was
talking
saying that
about?
it's
Yeah.
not people who are
Yeah.
saying that it is an elitist issue, that
Yeah.
it's not. Like I'm not into her as a person, as like
Mm-hmm.
a politician. Like I'm not a fan of hers, but like it kind of bothered me that I really liked that speech because
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, I don't like her, but like what she's saying, I really agree with, and
Right.
I really hear it.
She really knows how to communicate, like on social media, on the camera and stuff like that. So it's like she really knows how to like play up her
Grab an audience.
her role and like what she wants to say and just
She's
to
a
speak
very
out
she's a
on
very
her
good
audience.
speaker,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
her
Yeah.
diction is great. But what is the Green New Deal? What specifically?
It's honestly the Green New Deal is kind of a mess because it's like it's tried to amalgamate so many different issues and put it onto one piece of legislation. It's like saying is like you might as well just call it the Safe America Bill.
Yeah,
'cause
it was,
that's what
it
they
was
were
so
trying
rushed
to do.
through though, and
It was-
like it was the time
It
it, went from
focuses on
being
climate
introduced.
change and then it focuses on representation.
Yeah.
And then it talks about like ending student debt, which is like a whole like that should like I
What
don't
does
think
it have to do with climate change?
Well,
Thank you.
because it was a
That's-
massive omnibus bill, and the whole point was to kind of play
Push
on the
everything
New
into
Deal
it.
that was introduced by FDR
Yeah. Oh,
to kind of change fundamentally the economic
Mm-hmm.
and political system of the United States. The reason she called it the Green New Deal was because there was a focus on climate change.
Yeah.
I think it was kind of a silly name because I think it kind of presented itself as strictly a climate change, environmental
But it wasn't, and that was the
legislation.
problem.
And it was a lot more than that. It was,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like Daniel said, things about representation and racial
Infrastructure.
issues and infrastructure. A lot of it was climate change and environmental focus, though. And, you know, I think the reason why it got shut down so harshly is
Like, even
just-
Democrats shot it down, right?
it was
Oh,
silly.
didn't it
you
get-
know, it was
it
it
got
was
zero
done
votes,
poorly.
right?
Something like that.
And I'm not even ideologically, my issue with it isn't even ideological. It's just it was done poorly. It was done hastily. It was done without a lot of nuance and thought. There was a lot of concern over regulations around travel and fuel and gas and that kind of thing.
I think it was
that
kind
would
of
have made
closely
it.
tied to Trudeau's tax thing. Like they wanted to do some sort of like I don't know if
Well,
Are you
there was
hearing
a carbon tax was part of it, but
yeah.
even more so was just regulations around fuel and what fuel can be used for and how much fuel can be used. And I think that just caused so many problems for talking about switching air travel for rail
Only
travel.
essential? Yeah.
For rail travel in
Yeah,
a
that
lot
was
of
another
commercial situations. And imagine you work in Atlanta
It wasn't
and
like
you go on
investing, like, for-
regular
yeah.
and you go on regular business trips to New York City.
You can't
Like
use it.
you can't do that anymore because of this because of this Green New Deal.
'Cause they only wanted to
Because
prioritize
it takes
international
like a
flights,
day
right?
on a train from Atlanta to New York City, whereas like it's
That's
an
just-
hour and a half on a plane.
Wow.
And so I
Yeah,
think it was
it's just
poorly
not-
thought out. It's not even my opposition to it isn't even ideological. I am a big environmentalist. If the viewers didn't know that, I love the environment. But I don't think that the way it was implemented or wanted to be implemented was very smart at all.
You know what the facts about it is just that it was a poorly written bill, but it's also it's her first time like actually proposing something massive to the House. No one I see someone like a rookie congressperson doing that. It's like it just takes a lot of like
Takes guts.
yeah, it takes a lot of courage to do that, and it was just like
So we have a lot of comments, like a lot of comments,
lots
something that I wanted to read from Kevin is just kind of a funny comment is that AOC talks like every woke girl, and I think he's right. I don't think she's a good speaker at all. I actually think that she has a really annoying vocal fry that makes her sound really
like the
unprofessional.
Diction? Yeah, the diction.
It's just it's the vocal fry. It's the up talk. It's annoying and it's juvenile. But and then Sam says climate change propaganda is planned global wealth redistribution, and
it's all the Illuminati.
I think
universal basic incomes come in to destroy everything.
I think that there's somewhat of an element, a kernel of truth there. When I say I'm an environmentalist, I'm not the climate change kind of environmentalist. I'm the clean air, clean rivers, clean forests kind of environmentalist. Not that I don't believe in climate change, but
Especially you're an environmentalist, of course you believe in.
Yeah, I just think it's a bit of there's a bit of mumbo jumbo.
That's a whole
to it.
different ballgame.
Yeah, but and then Victoire, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right.
Yeah,
I hope
Victoire.
I am.
Hey,
Victoire says kind of a mess. Bruv, it requests the elimination of all aerial travel. She wanted to switch aerial travel with traveling on giant seahorses. LOL.
What?
I'm not sure what he means by giant
Making a
seahorses.
joke.
But I don't know. That'd be kind of cool. Imagine that, just getting like a saddle on the back of a giant seahorse and riding it through the.
Oh my god.
Yeah, but it's
The Democrats.
Yeah. No. Oh, sorry.
but-
I was.
yeah,
I
no,
to say
go ahead.
about. I was saying about the climate change, the propaganda, and that it's fake and all that. I was sitting in Starbucks this summer, and I was studying for a French test, and these two middle-aged women were chatting with each other, and they were like one of them was like, Kathy, did you hear about climate change and everything, and it's the Illuminati. The other woman's like, what's the Illuminati? Oh my gosh, Deborah, you have to understand, the Illuminati, it's a group of the Khazar Jews, and also keep in mind, I live in a very Jewish neighborhood, and this was literally
Khazar Jews, mountain Jews?
Yeah, way back when.
Yeah.
You have to understand where I live.
Armenia?
You have to understand where I live. This Starbucks is literally everyone there is Jewish. Literally, a rabbi sitting right there, and they're just casually having this conversation. She's like, you have to, I hear some of them live around here. I'm like, oh my god, you're actually crazy. So yeah, it's all our fault. The climate change is basically what I was.
It's the globalists. That's the thing.
The globalist.
That's the problem right now.
Well, obviously there, based on everything that I've heard, there's a lot of issues with the Green New Deal, and it doesn't seem like AOC is going to stop. But moving forward to another controversial candidate, controversial objectively, Ilhan Omar.
Oh my god, I love her.
Okay.
That was a joke.
She has
That was totally a joke.
she has been at the center of a lot of concerning tweets and statements.
So she's objectively an anti-Semite, and this is coming from someone who's pretty liberal when it comes to Israel and Jews and that kind of thing. I think she's gotten a lot of flack and a lot of criticisms. People have a lot of people in her friends group have explained to her why what she has said is wrong. Yet she continues to make these statements. And I think
you mean the first one though she was saying people were hypnotized into the.
I mean she's a little bit hypocritical.
Do we have the Jewish consensus in the room that she's an anti-Semite?
I'm for it. Yeah.
I would take.
Am I part of
Yeah,
this?
bring up the
Am I
close.
part of
the
this or
mic.
no?
Bring up the.
You're not. Hey, just because you're
Listen,
6% Jewish.
Listen, he's
does not-
6% Jewish.
He is a
I
proud
accept him.
Jewish man.
I
Do not
accept him.
deny
Thank
him his
you.
Judaism.
Okay, yeah, no, sorry.
Look, I will just say this. I think that the approach that she took to say what she says, and obviously when you're referencing Jewish money and bringing up any kind of stereotypes like that, you're bringing up a very negative connotation of Judaism that's inherently anti-Semitic. But I think that what a lot of people who criticize her for her comments are getting wrong is that they're saying that because she was criticizing Israel,
It was automatically
anti-Semitic.
Right.
And I think that that's such a flawed argument in
Yeah,
the
I
sense
agree.
that Israel, just because it's a Jewish state, any criticism of it is anti-Semitic. I think that's wrong. I think that criticism of its right to exist as a Jewish state, that's where you can get into the discussion of why reasoning like that is anti-Semitic. But I think that coming at Representative Omar for being criticizing Israel in general is not inherently anti-Semitic, which
No,
is
of
the narrative
course
that
not.
I see
Of
being
course
spoken
not.
about a lot, though. And that's
Okay, so
Can
that's
I-
talking about, but that's
hold on.
not,
Can I jump
but that's
in?
not her. That's not her tweet. Her tweet was not criticizing Israel. It was criticizing. I mean, there were a lot of tweets criticizing Israel, and that's fine. You'll see.
Was one
Well, it
directly
was-
about
it was-
Jews?
It was
criticizing-
directly about the American Jewish establishment.
Well,
and-
hold on. Can I?
criticizing the Israel lobby.
Yeah, and I think that there's something to that, and maybe Zahavi, who says she's an anti-Semite as well. If we can get some examples of her being anti-Semitic, because I tried to find the anti-Semitism in it and failed to, and I looked
Mara,
through.
do you want to find the tweets?
I'll bring them up. Sure.
Well, Kevin brought up on the comment. She said that the comment about it being all about the Benjamins, essentially implying that it was all about money. And that
a very poorly worded tweet, but
Right.
Benjamins is all about the Benjamins is a very common
Exactly. I
idiom
don't think it's-
for being all about.
I don't think
money,
it has
right?
a connection towards. I don't think it should have a connection towards Jewish people. Like to say something directly anti-Semitic.
they said that it was a dog whistle. That, as Kevin said, it was a dog whistle that implying that Judaism and Jews who have the money to buy people, and that people don't really have support for Israel. They just are bought by Jewish money, and that's where I think that's where it's the gray area.
Right.
Because the way I read it before I saw any of the hype was about the money of the pro-Israel lobby, and I think that at the end of the day we can all make assumptions, but that's where I think she's coming from. But she's being painted as an anti-Semite for that comment specifically. We
Yeah.
can go
that's
into
exactly
everything
what's,
tweet
that's
by
exactly
tweet.
what's happening to her.
The Israel lobby in America is extremely powerful and very wealthy, and they do spend a lot of money on pro-Israel causes within the United States. And I think to deny that is just silly. And Ilhan Omar is making a comment about the amount of influence that AIPAC has on
and especially with
on American foreign policy, and she's correct to say that they have a lot of influence on American foreign policy.
Well, let's talk about the dual loyalties comment.
Yeah, I'm trying to bring up that.
I'd like to hear that one because I'm not sure what
Trying
that
to
one.
find
I'm
the
not
tweet,
familiar with
but
that
it's
one.
hard. I'm not.
If I
sure.
don't know if
remember,
it's
she
not
said
the-
something about how American Jews have dual loyalty, and we don't expect any person of a different faith or a different country to be loyal to the country they come from, as well as
She deleted the tweet, that's why they're not there.
the United States.
You could probably find them screenshotted on Google.
yeah, I don't know, yeah.
I mean, I think that historically that comment that's also extremely problematic in the sense where, like, literally that's reminiscent of Nazi ideology, of what, they were saying about Jews living in Poland and Germany at the time. They have their dual loyalties, and it was a, very classic trope. And I know, Ilhan Omar she deleted the tweet and has apparently, according to this article on Vox, unequivocally apologized. But the problem that I see with it is that, there's these tweets coming out and there's all these different tweets and, things that she's saying, and the fact that she's getting criticism and she's hearing from her Jewish peers, she's hearing from people who are telling her what she's saying is problematic, and she's not like she's listening and then repeating the mistake.
Not reacting,
I have no
basically.
problem for people who, make a mistake. That's totally fine. How can you expect everyone to, agree with you or, know everything that you know? To admit that you're wrong and to, do better is all we can ask for. And I think that she's not doing a good enough job in that.
I think that this situation is paralleling really a lot what's happened with the Women's March in the last year. I think that a few of their leaders have had not just one-off, but multiple instances where they've been questioned on their behavior and anti-Semitism within their ranks and what they're going to do about that, and the
Tamika,
fact that
Linda.
they didn't really take any action to either show that those views were valid or to try and combat whatever was taking place. I think that really spoke volumes in the fact that, inaction would speak a lot louder than anything that they said they were going to do or that they did stand for. The fact that they didn't do anything about it, similarly to what's happening with the Ilhan Omar situation, I think speaks a lot more volume.
I would say it's a direct attack towards the Democrats, though, because it's they're highlighting Ilhan Omar first, and then they're also highlighting AOC. And any comment that they make, which is that is controversial by any stretch of the imagination, is automatically blown out of proportion.
And
But it's this thing specifically is when AOC was making a comment about Venezuela, she's like, "Oh, I want to make sure that there's no American intervention or anything particular about that." They flipped it completely to be "Oh, she supports Maduro and stuff like that." Automatically, she supports a dictator. It's I think she was criticizing the Jewish lobby that has lots of influence in both countries, and that's automatically seen as anti-Semitic. And there's a distinction between criticizing the Jewish lobby and talking about stuff that is just like anti-Semitic tropes.
And I think
Sam
yeah.
brings up a really good comment that I wanted to address. Sam says, "I'm a tri-citizen. I'm not going to lie and say I don't have other loyalties." And I know this about Sam. I'm a longtime friend of Sam's.
Isn't that contradictive though? To
No,
have more
he
than one loyalty.
No, because he's open to the fact that he's, and I hope I'm not spilling the beans on Sam here, but he's also American, and Sam is somebody who's much more loyal to the United States than he is to Canada, and I think that when you apply that notion to Jews specifically, then there's certainly an issue. But when you apply that notion to dual citizenship or tri-citizenship or multiple citizenship as a concept in general, I think that's entirely valid. I personally don't believe in multiple citizenships. I think I'm very much ideologically opposed to it because of that reason. But I do take issue with it being applied to Jews specifically, because that's a problem. You have to apply that kind of thing across the board, or else you're being anti-Semitic, or you're being whatever group you're applying it to. You're targeting them, and that's wrong. But I don't think the idea of questioning Jews or have dual loyalty, and you weren't to apply the same standard to other people with multiple citizenship, that's certainly a problem, of course.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's a matter. I don't know.
I think it's also just like a rise of anti-Semitism that's been happening, or just a rise of just religious violence that's been happening. Like we had an episode before about the Pittsburgh synagogue and stuff like that. So it's
And-
we just see more like active incidents of hate crimes towards
Yeah.
Jews, right? So
And I think it is fair to make a note that the right really likes to capitalize on any time somebody on the left says something, they completely misconstrue it. But at the same time, it is important to make a note of things that are anti-Semitic or that can come off as anti-Semitic, such as the
But
dual.
I think her main thing is more that she just is really is not a fan of Israel. And I think we need to make a distinction.
But again, there's a huge difference.
There's
You
a
can
distinction-
criticize the government, but if you start criticizing the people and the existence of the state, then you have an issue.
Right.
Right.
It's also like within APAC. Like, I mean, listen, I'm not American. I've never gone to the American APAC conferences, so I don't know. What about APAC is is there any proof of APAC, donating money to politicians? Is APAC giving
yes.
money to politicians?
Yes, that's their entire point.
Okay, maybe
That's why
I'm being
that's why they
stupid.
exist.
I'm just
Yeah.
ignorant. I didn't know
They
that.
exist to give money to politicians.
Nice.
And Zahavi asks, what about Rashida Tlaib? I'm actually not sure what you mean.
Well,
what about her?
So one of the things that she did is when she got into office, there was a picture of her office, and she had a map, and it was a picture of Israel, and she put a sticky note that says Palestine all over it.
Okay.
So that's part of what she did.
But I think there's more. I know there's a lot. I don't know specific.
Well, that is one of the things that made the news about
Oh,
it.
yeah.
So I think
And
that
I think
that
people
might be.
freaked out on her when it's like you literally put a sticky note. Like you're not destroying a country. Like get over yourself. Like just because you put a sticky
The
note.
issue
on
is
something
the
doesn't mean
concern that not yet, or something
something.
like that, because
the-
everything starts
Everyone knows
from
it all
somewhere.
starts with a sticky note.
Okay, but
Yeah.
we already know that like that situation is just a hot mess and stuff like that that requires something different than the current.
Well, then speaking
what's
of hot,
happening right now.
well, speaking of hot mess, how has Nancy Pelosi dealt with the new recruits, to call them? Because obviously,
It's a good question. I don't know
that
how
is
she
a good
does.
question.
because in the news they've talked a lot about how AOC and Ilhan Omar, who are getting the media spotlight, is kind of pissing Nancy off because she's been there for a long time. She's the Speaker of the House now, and she should be the one in the spotlight. And all these new people coming in and taking it from her, she's not really happy.
I fully saw a cover of Rolling Stone with Kamala Harris, Nancy Pelosi, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and Ilhan Omar. They were all together, be like women in politics, and I think they're more conjugating on that idea of like having more women and more meaningful women represent. I'm not saying that like in a bad way. I'm saying like people that like are more active in a role of like trying to call out the establishment and stuff
Right.
like that.
Like I think what Elliot, I know like you obviously didn't mean when you're saying like this, but I think to equate it to the idea that she's personally like Pelosi is offended that like she's not the center of attention is not where you were going with that. That's
I
just
mean,
how
I
think that
I
she
think
should
a
be
little
in
bit
the-
because it's
I think
caused.
that's a stretch.
I think it's just
yeah.
causing a riff in the party because you have
no. I think that what essentially what they represent is not only a rise in the progressive left and the idea that this could be the Congress that moves the Democratic Party further to the left
But I
as a
think
means
that's-
of taking
yeah.
over Trump instead of closer to the center. But I think that the idea is just that they're having different views than what Pelosi, who represents the establishment and the center of the party altogether, are ready to go forth and commit to. And that's where the disconnect comes from.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of twofold. I think that the reason why Pelosi hasn't been getting as much media attention as she otherwise would comes from, one, how much media attention has she been working towards? Like, is it a matter of she doesn't want the media attention, so she's not working towards it, or is it a matter of she's not doing a good enough job to attract the media to herself? You know, that's to be seen. The other thing is how much the media just eats up everything that comes from AOC especially, but also Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib as other examples. Because that's what the people want to see. The people just don't care about Nancy Pelosi. What is there to care about with Nancy Pelosi, really?
Like, what does she do? Like, what's her...
Like, she's nothing innovative. She's nothing fresh. And that's just not, I don't mean that to speak to her age, but I do mean that to speak to her ideas and her seniority within Congress, for sure. With these new freshman congresswomen and Congress people in general, they're exciting, they're fresh, they're attention grabbing, and I think that's what it comes down to essentially.
I don't know. Can I say something like really unpopular?
Sure.
It doesn't even go along with my belief. Like, it does, but something that's just been bothering me recently is that I feel like people are, it's all about identity politics. And, I'm guilty of it as well. Like Elliot and I were just talking about, like, everywhere I go, like, everyone knows, like, I'm a Jewish woman, an Orthodox Jewish woman, like, everywhere I go. So I am guilty of it as well. But, like, I just feel like the fact that we're, like, diversity is important. Representation is super important, especially in America now when minorities are so concerned because of the government and because of, Trump and all that's going on. But at the same time, like, why are we celebrating the fact that, okay, it's a woman in Congress, or it's, like a minority in Congress? Like, why can we not have those people, but have people who are qualified? Like, why are we celebrating who they are instead of who they are, how it relates to Congress?
I kind of disagree with you there. I agree inherently that we need to be looking at people more than just what they look like and who they identify as, by all means. But I think it's also, we're kind of forgetting the nature of why it's important to recognize that this is the first of this group of this thing of X and Y that we've seen.
Yeah.
And I think that if we don't, that should not be the only identifier that we have of these people. And I think that going back to someone like AOC, the fact that she took on the Green New Deal, for better or for worse, that's something that now she has to offer more than just she's the youngest female congresswoman.
Yeah.
And I think that doesn't lessen any of the accomplishments that they have just by considering that they have, hit some milestone. But it's also important that we recognize where and when we are hitting those milestones. Remember that we have a lot of work to still do to ensure that we are getting to that diverse point.
And
yeah,
it is
but
a
also with sorry to cut you off, just to continue with my point, it was that when it came to Hillary Clinton and a few years ago during the election, I just remember, like, I didn't know too much about American politics, and all I was hearing, vote for Hillary, she'll be the first female American president, first woman president.
That's a horrible message.
No, but that's all I was hearing as someone who wasn't involved in it, and it was like, okay, first woman, like, great, sure, but like, and it is a milestone, and it's so important. But my point is that Hillary Clinton is, for better or for worse, agree with me, disagree with me, like, she was so qualified. She had so much. Yeah, she had a lot of bad things too, but like, she had so much work in the political realm. But the fact that it was so, like, it was all kind of like cut down to the fact that she's a woman and that's why you should elect her, not because of all the years she had in practice and working in it. And I think that that's something that, instead of saying this person is so qualified, they're so amazing, they they did this, they're ambitious, they have all this years of practice and knowledge, instead of saying that's why you should elect them, they're saying elect AOC because she's going to be the first Latina woman. And I think that it's amazing that she is, and how young she is, but I think that it's like her qualifications and all that's important too. So I think we're kind of, forgetting. Okay, Sorry, Victoire, whatever the hell your name
He's
is.
just messing
Call
with you,
me
Tamar.
glasses lady one more time.
See,
I swear to God.
Tamar, this reaction is why he's calling you glasses
Oh
lady.
my
That's
God.
what you.
It's just like
that's
with you
what you do to
reacting
me
to
about
Elliot's
Celine.
post.
You know what I mean? So
Tamar's getting a taste of her own medicine. But anyway, identity politics is inescapable.
it even happens with this show.
Yeah.
We've had so many
Oh,
issues with the
100%.
fact.
There's no escaping identity politics. You can take yourself out of identity politics, but you can't take identity politics out of you. You are this whole thing that conservatives so often do is we need to escape identity politics, and you've got like Dennis Prager talking about how
Have you ever met him?
He's
have
smart,
you?
Yeah,
Dennis-
I think I did.
Dennis Prager, my only identity is an American. And then in the same breath, as a proud American Jew, it's like, okay, yeah, come on. And, we're all guilty of it. In-group preference is real. Even with the RSU elections, this one guy was running, Daniel Patricio. I go,
Oh my
Oh my God, I love him.
I go, a
Hilarious.
Portuguese guy is running. Hey, you know what? Got a lot more faith in that guy, and then he's not even Portuguese. But
Well, yeah, that's what I said to Adam when he was running. I was like, Adam, how many Jewish people are on your slate? He's like, me and one other person. I was like, okay, fine, I'll vote for you. But
yeah,
also
and-
because I'm graduating and I don't care about politics. So.
But when it comes down to it, some people don't like explicit identity politics, which I think is kind of most people these days. But even if you don't like explicit identity politics, I promise you, I guarantee you that you like implicit identity politics, and
Yeah.
there's no escaping it.
And speaking
I
of
feel it's
identity politics,
necessary,
sorry, I
yeah.
just need to interrupt this because of the commentators on
Oh,
this
okay.
episode. Speaking
can't
of
see
identity
this.
politics, as the only woman in the room right now, I find it very wrong that I'm being referred to as glasses lady. Like, now it's not just Victoire, dude. Now it's also Sam. Like, seriously, guys. Like,
I mean, like, but see, that's something that's necessary that happens like in the conversation, and I think we should.
Which part is necessary?
We shouldn't be branching off and having this conversation without identity politics. I'm not saying we got to put
And-
it in the primary, in the forefront and stuff like that. But I think the way that Marshall said it, to implicitly acknowledge it, is a very strong way to have a real conversation with the public servant and the public. I think Peter Buttigieg, I forget if you say his name correctly, no, but he does.
You
a
actually
very-
said it correctly.
Buttigieg. He does. I've been watching a lot of his videos, but he is very distinct with trying to casually acknowledge like privilege and like race politics and race relations in the United States when he talks to the media. So I think that's a proper way to do it. It shouldn't be that like, oh, I'm a Latino male. I'm 6 feet tall or something like that. You know?
But people are so angry at Pete Buttigieg for not talking about the fact that he's gay. You have all these tweets. Wait, why?
That's
Pete
exactly what happened with the RSU elections,
doesn't have this
and
gay pride. It's like
gonna happen now.
people are going to get upset with you if you're not embracing your identity,
Mm-hmm.
and people are going to get upset with you if you are embracing your identity. There's no winning, and I think it gets to the point where you have to say identity politics is real, and it's not
can't
going
escape
away.
it, yeah.
And if you try to pander to the anti-identity politics people are going to get mad at you. If you try to pander to the pro-identity politics
It's a
people,
lose-lose situation.
people are going to get mad at you.
I think it's important, obviously, as we've mentioned, it's important to know that it is a part of life nowadays, identity politics, but the issue that I have is that it should not govern all decisions and everything that
Yeah, of
happens.
course.
And that's why, we've had issues with the show where, we've been told that when Adam was still here that we were for white men or for white passing men. And it's just like, well, first of all, no.
No, not passing. We're just for white guys.
No, we were called for.
We were for
told
white guys.
No, what was said was passing.
Oh, really?
I was told white,
Oh.
and then I was told passing because.
Oh, that's
problem
because we
is-
made the distinction after.
Well, then we
though.
made the distinction
Because it doesn't matter if you're
Did
not
you
white.
respond to that?
Huh?
You made the distinction?
Yeah,
Yeah.
2 Jews, an Arab, a Hispanic.
Because it doesn't matter
And
if
it
you're
does-
not white.
And
Yeah.
that's the thing. Even then, it
But
shouldn't
was it? I have
matter.
a question though. This is totally random, but the person who told you that, was that a white person?
Of course.
Oh,
Okay, that makes it
100%,
because
yeah.
listen, if it was coming from a person of color, then fine,
Yeah.
I would hear it and I would respect it just because of it. I understand the different dynamics there, but coming from a white person telling you, like, yeah, okay.
And,
And
it's just
it's like
just trying to
I'm the
poke
only
fun.
white guy in here, technically.
Technically.
But
Oh,
if someone
wow.
were to get mad at
Wow,
us,
wow, wow.
if someone were to get mad at us for the whiteness of our show, it wouldn't matter because you look white and you look white and you look
yeah,
white
I was
and
just
you look
called.
white.
I was just
and,
called the white glasses lady.
And it's like, it doesn't matter. It'll never be good enough.
Yeah.
Even if you didn't look. as white as you do, even if Daniel were, wearing a sombrero.
No.
Oh my god.
I think the solution is to just include everyone at every single time. So
That's
we're gonna
the thing.
we're gonna have the whole floor, all the radios,
Literally, and
every single demographic possible, every identity orientation you can think of.
And the thing
And there you
about
go.
us is that I am very open to having guests of different backgrounds and different things, but I don't.
Our show
like,
is very diverse.
But we're not
when
gonna
we
bring
bring
Yeah,
on
somebody-
it's
guests.
so diverse. You have a woman.
When we bring on
And
guests.
the thing is, if you actually
Is it Joe?
if you actually go to our Facebook page and you see the thumbnail for like the last 6 episodes, it's all women. So
Hot
just
damn.
saying.
hot take.
But getting
And vegan women.
yes,
Another
Singular.
marginalized group. There you go.
but getting back.
Oh
to,
my, we did last week. It was
yeah.
great.
Vegan deaded.
Ow.
But getting back to the Democrats, we talked about their issues and the people in them. What are their strengths? What are
Well,
the
I think
Democratic Party's strengths?
It's Bernie Sanders.
Their
I think.
biggest
Oh my
strength,
god, I love him so much.
their biggest strength
I
is how
love
bad of a job Trump is doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
That is like, we talk about
his
how
approval rating's like pretty at 40% something. No,
Yeah,
Trudeau's
but-
is at 40. His is at 43.
Yeah, but approval ratings in Canadian politics are always so much lower than they are in
Oh,
American
okay.
politics.
Yeah, but you can't even trust the approval rating.
Yeah,
Actually.
because you look at George W. Bush. He had the highest approval rating of any president of all time, but nobody really liked him, right?
True.
And that was just
Or did
That was
they?
just post 9/11.
yeah, it was post 9/11. He was at like 93% or something. But Trump has just been doing such a
Horrible
bad job that like. There's no other party. It's a two-party system. The Democrats already have such a huge advantage because of that, and their candidates that they're running, I think, are mostly bad. To be honest,
They are.
there's a couple okay ones. I mean, I think literally 2 okay ones, which are Tulsi Gabbard and Andrew Yang, but and maybe Buttigieg, but like I don't know. He just seems like he's trying to copy Yang's playbook, but.
I do notice that. I do
Why
see
is
that.
he being so like under the rug, Andrew Yang? Like you don't hear about him.
Because
he's-
the establishment
it was-
doesn't want him. Andrew Yang.
He's
is,
what Bernie Sanders was like in the last Democratic
Exactly,
election.
Oh, he's
convention.
also a dictator?
No, not at all.
No, but
It's just like he threatens the establishment the same way that Sanders
Okay,
did.
got it.
and
Not-
Buttigieg specifically took some of his ideas in town halls, so they would spread like UBI on the mainstream and stuff like that.
And so because Trump is, the Republican candidate for president automatically, it kind of allows the Democrats to have more diversity intellectually, ideologically within their primaries. Because somebody like Andrew Yang would not run or would not be able to run for the Democrats if it weren't Trump. If it were somebody like Mitt Romney or somebody like John Kasich, who was the president of the United States as a Republican, somebody like Andrew Yang would not fit into the Democratic primaries because of how untraditionally Democratic he is.
Yeah.
And because of, the way that Trump has been running things, I think it opens up a lot of... Excuse me, I had a little tickle in my throat. Opens up a lot of possibilities within the Democratic primaries.
Do you think that because of that, because of Bernie Sanders, he's running to be leader of the Democratic Party, right? Do you think that's going to cause problems with winning the election?
In what sense?
If Bernie Sanders becomes the leader of the Democratic Party, do you think that people are going to... Do you think that Democrats who don't like Bernie are going to still vote for the Democratic Party?
Well, I think the problem with Bernie Sanders is he is so 2016. Like the
He's
issues,
so old. Oh
like
my God.
no, really,
Yeah.
we've
He's like
gone
such an
through our
old
political
man.
discourse in both Canada and the U.S. has gone through such a massive shift since
The
2016.
policy isn't the
Things are-
same
That's why I
anymore
love
to
him
talk
so
and,
about.
and Bernie Sanders is still so 2016. He's still very like running on the same platform points that he did in 2016. If he can address modern issues, 3 years later.
That's
I
like
know.
kind
It's
of
different.
funny.
If he can address the issues of today,
Yeah.
then maybe he'll do a lot better. But he is not talking about things like automation and UBI is a big one, which I think is ridiculous. It's not being talked about more, and immigration and demographics and the fact that people are becoming conscious and aware and concerned with demographics. And if he's not addressing those, then he's just going to fall to the wayside entirely.
I think also like there's every candidate that's out there right now, they have like lots of strengths, but their weaknesses are too like low and stuff like that. Like Buttigieg has like the ideas because he's like a lot younger and stuff like that. And I think that's a refreshing way to look at the Democratic Party. Bernie Sanders is on the polar opposite of that because he's like super old. Like it's like
How old is he? 83?
he's way older than Trump. He would probably be the oldest.
8, I think.
Oh, he's only that old, eh?
Yeah, but he's
No, I think that was when he was running in 2016.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
he's almost almost his 80s at least or something. But
So good for him. My friend ran into him last week, literally.
Really?
Speaking of APAC, at APAC.
One thing that I think going back off of like strengths that you were talking about of like the Democratic Party that I think we've kind of touched on like just a little like subconsciously here is the fact that, and kind of going back into that identity politics thing, is that we have seen like a record number of women running for nominee in the Democratic Party, and we see a lot of different marginalized groups being touched upon, but for the most part it's very different from how they were treated last year when Hillary was running, where we were looking at her as the woman candidate or Bernie Sanders as the Jewish candidate. Like, I think this year, because of that, and we've kind of acknowledged that we've had those people before, now we just have a field of multiple
candidates.
women who are running, but we're not looking at them as, oh, she's going to be the woman president, you know? You
Yeah.
can look
And
at
it's a
Kamala
shift,
Harris and
yeah.
Elizabeth Warren and be able to talk about them based on their platforms, not based on the fact that they're
2019 candidate, a good 2019 candidate acknowledges identity but doesn't rely on it, I think.
Right.
Now, we do have to go, actually, because somebody has this studio booked at 2:30.
Classic.
And that's why I just wanted to go extend it to have this discussion longer. But since we can't,
didn't
the
talk
last
about
question
any-
is, do the Dems have a chance in 2020? And before you answer, I want to pull up our poll. Yesterday we asked if the Democrats will they win the presidency in 2020? 54% said yes, they will. 46% said no, they won't. And that's out of 56 votes. So 30 said yes, 26 said no, which is pretty even. And what's interesting is that I looked at the people who answered, and there are both people who are both on the left and the right who voted
You
for
can
both
see who
sides.
votes?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm never voting in that shit again.
Because
Thought it was anonymous.
I see people that are on the left and the right that have
Instagram
voted
isn't
for
like that
each.
either.
What do you guys think?
Well, I think it depends how things go. Like, if things continue to go the way they are now, with Trump just doing a terrible job, I know. Trump just doing a terrible job, and it depends who the Democrats bring in or who wins the primaries, right? Like, I think it's really up in the air right now, but if Trump continues to do as bad of a job as he's been doing the last couple months, like 6 months, let's say, then, yeah, I think the Democrats have a great chance.
I think
Jake?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think going off of that, you have people from both sides of the political spectrum who are so dead set against either for Trump or against Trump that they can't see any other possibility. I think that's why the numbers are a lot closer than people would have expected at this point.
Right.
And I think that I would say don't discount the support of the Trump fan base and people's willingness to support Trump while outright saying that they're willing to support Trump in public, because I think that definitely helps him. But I still think it's the Democrats to lose.
And Tamara, quickly?
I think that also when it came to the past elections, people voted for Trump not because a lot of people voted for him because they were not pro Hillary Clinton or the Democrats. And I think that they didn't understand the gravity of what Trump could do and how bad he could have been. I don't think they understood that. But I think now knowing the extent of that, I don't think the same people who voted for Trump back then are going to be voting for him again this time around. And I think they will be voting for the Democratic Party.
And Daniel?
I don't really think the Democrats have a really good shot for 2020, to be honest. I don't know, I feel like the Trump voter base is strong enough to keep him in office for another term. But if someone should be going on to face him, I think Bernie Sanders should be doing it. Even though I don't think he might win. There's not very many strong candidates that I see that can go up against someone like Donald Trump. So,
And personally, on the last note, I don't know. They have to get the party unified again. They have to have a concrete message. Otherwise, Trump is going to win again, no matter how bad they think they are doing. Other than talking about it, we'll have to see what happens in 2020. But that was our show for this week. Thank you to everyone that tuned in. Thank you, Jake, for coming on the show so last minute. We really appreciate it. Thank you to everyone that commented on the show. We had an insane amount of comments. Thank you to everyone that voted on our poll. Thank you to everyone that has tuned in for the past 60 episodes.
except the mean comments.
Yeah, except the mean
mean
comments.
and misogynistic comments about glasses lady.
So the Raben Report will be coming
Salt
to
me,
you.
the visually impaired.
The Raben Report will be coming to you next week with a brand new new episode, same day, same time, same people. Have a great day, everyone.